The scene opens with silence. A crowded room. A man sits at a table. Words are spoken to him, sharp and cutting. An insult. His face tightens for a moment. You can see the instinct rising. The anger, the urge to lash out, the immediate fire that comes from being provoked. And then a pause. Just a breath. His eyes soften, his body relaxes. He does not react. He chooses. And in that choice, he shows a power greater than any outburst could have revealed. This is the split second that defines lives. Not the insult, not the action of another, not the event itself, but the moment after. The space between stimulus and response. That fragile, invisible, immeasurable instant where freedom either lives or dies. Most people lose themselves in that moment. They surrender. They give their emotions free rein. They let instinct and ego take the wheel. They lash out. They say words they regret. They burn bridges. They reveal weakness. Reaction is easy. Reaction is fast. Reaction feels natural. But it is not strength. It is slavery. Because what is a reaction if not proof that you are owned by your emotions? Someone presses a button and you move. Someone insults you and you obey your anger. Someone mocks you and you give them exactly what they wanted, your peace. This is not control. This is not mastery. This is not power. It is dependence. A person who reacts is a puppet. A person who responds is a master. That pause, that breath, that decision not to let instinct rule, it is everything. In that single second, you are reborn. You realize the world can act on you, but it cannot force you. The world can insult, but it cannot dictate your dignity. The world can provoke, but it cannot choose your words. The world can tempt, but it cannot steal your discipline. Unless you give it permission, unless you react. Life is full of moments designed to provoke. The driver who cuts you off. The co-worker who spreads lies. The stranger who disrespects you. Even the people you love will sometimes strike your nerves. You cannot stop these things. You cannot control others. You cannot control fate. You cannot control chance. But you can control yourself. Always. And that is the highest form of freedom a human being can achieve. Marcus Aurelius knew this truth. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Every insult you face, every hardship, every inconvenience is not the problem. The problem is the chain reaction inside you, the explosion you allow, the surrender you make to anger, pride, or fear. That is the real battle, and it is fought in silence. Responding is power. It is not weakness to stay calm in the face of disrespect. It is not weakness to walk away from provocation. It is not weakness to think before you speak. That is strength. That is command. Anyone can scream. Anyone can fight. Anyone can break. Few can stay whole. Few can remain steady. Few can transform the urge to react into the discipline to respond. Think of it this way. Reacting is what a wild animal does. Threaten it, and it attacks. Corner it, and it strikes. It has no pause, no thought, no choice. But you are not an animal. You are human. You have the gift of reason, the capacity for restraint, the strength to act with purpose instead of impulse. Every time you react blindly, you step closer to being an animal. Every time you respond calmly, you rise toward being fully human. When you respond, you are not ignoring the insult, nor are you suppressing your emotions. You are mastering them. You are saying to yourself, "Yes, I feel the anger. Yes, I feel the sting. But I will not give them control. I will not hand over my peace." You do not deny the emotion. You observe it. You let it exist. And then you choose something higher. That choice is the essence of Stoicism. That choice is the mark of inner strength. The truth is, most battles are won or lost in that invisible pause. Entire lives are shaped not by the event, but by the reaction to it. Two people can face the same insult. One screams back, ruins his reputation, looks weak, and feels regret. The other stays calm, smiles, and moves on untouched. The insult is the same. The difference is the choice. And it is always a choice. When you begin to train your mind to respond instead of react, you start to notice something extraordinary. The world loses its power over you. People cannot control you anymore. Situations cannot break you. Your peace becomes untouchable. You stand in the storm, and you do not shake. That is why responding is powerful. Because it is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about showing that nothing can dictate your mind unless you allow it. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones who explode at every small irritation? Or are they the ones who remain composed no matter the chaos? The leaders, the wise, the disciplined, they are not reactionary. They are measured. They are intentional. They know when to speak, when to remain silent, when to act, and when to walk away. Their presence alone commands respect because it is clear they are not slaves to emotion. They are guided by principle. And so the lesson is clear. In life, you cannot control what happens. The world will insult you, test you, challenge you, betray you. But the one thing no one can ever take is your response. That belongs to you alone. And in that truth lies all the strength you will ever need. The visual returns to the man in the room. He has just been insulted. He breathes. He does not react. He responds with silence. He walks away with dignity. The room notices. They realize his strength. Not in words, not in anger, but in control. This is the power of the split second. The moment that makes or breaks you. The invisible battlefield of life. Win it, and you win everything. Lose it, and you remain a prisoner. The choice is always yours. React like a slave, or respond like a master. Why do reactions hold such power over us? Because at their core, reactions are not chosen. They are commanded. They do not emerge from reason, but from impulse. They are the body's way of saying, I cannot wait. I cannot think. I must obey this emotion now. And in that obedience, you give away everything. Your peace, your reputation, your dignity, your control. Think of the times you snapped back in anger. A careless insult thrown your way, and before you could think, the words poured out of you like fire. You shouted. You cut deep. You defended yourself not with wisdom, but with rage. For a second, it felt powerful. But then the silence came after. The look in the other person's eyes. The weight of regret pressing on your chest. The words you wish you could take back, but cannot. That is the cost of reaction. The false strength of a moment that becomes weakness forever. Or think of rushed decisions. An opportunity comes your way. You feel excitement, maybe fear, maybe greed. Without thinking, you say yes. Without reflection, you leap. And only later do you realize the trap you walked into. The money you lost, the time you wasted, the reputation you damaged. A calm mind would have seen it. A patient response would have waited, questioned, measured. But the reaction seized control. And you obeyed. And what of relationships? How many bonds have been broken not because of betrayal, not because of true harm, but because of a reaction? One sharp word in anger, one cold gesture in pride, one impulsive choice to hurt back instead of breathe. Lovers separated, friendships ruined, families fractured, all because no one could hold that 1 second of silence. All because someone believed the emotion was too strong to resist. This is the tragedy of reaction. It destroys what discipline could have preserved. When you live in reaction, you are not free. You are chained to whatever emotion shouts the loudest. Anger yells, and you obey. Fear whispers, and you shrink. Pride flares, and you defend. Envy stirs, and you resent. You are not living. You are being lived by your emotions. You are not acting. You are being acted upon. Reaction is slavery, and most people never realize they are captives. The illusion is that reacting feels like strength. To lash out feels like power. To rush feels like decisiveness. To retaliate feels like justice. But this is false. Real strength is not the ability to explode. Real strength is the ability to contain. Real decisiveness is not rushing blindly, but choosing wisely. Real justice is not about giving pain for pain, but standing for what is right even when it hurts your pride. Reactions promise strength, but they deliver weakness. Why? Because they put the control in someone else's hands. If a stranger can insult you and make you scream, then who has the power? Not you. If circumstances can shift and make you panic into bad choices, who is leading your life? Not you. If a single word from a loved one can ignite your rage and destroy your peace, who is really in control? Not you. The one who triggers your reaction owns you. They press the button, you move. They light the fire, you burn. They throw the bait, you bite. This is not power. This is surrender. The Stoics saw this clearly. They taught that external events do not harm us, only our judgments about them. The insult itself is just sound. The betrayal is just action. The delay is just time. None of these things have the power to control you unless you allow them to. What controls you is not the event, but the story you tell yourself in reaction to it. He disrespected me, so I must retaliate. This is unfair, so I must rage. I might miss out, so I must rush. These are the chains, and you put them on yourself. A person who cannot master their reactions is like a ship without a captain. Every wave tosses them one way or the other. Every gust of wind sends them spinning. They may believe they are moving with purpose, but in truth, they are being dragged by forces they do not control. And where does such a ship end up? Broken on the rocks, lost at sea, wrecked by nothing but the inability to hold steady. Life will test you. This is guaranteed. You will be insulted, provoked, challenged, betrayed, disappointed. None of these things can be avoided. But whether they control you is not fate, it is choice. Do you hand over your peace in the heat of the moment? Or do you guard it like the most precious treasure you own? Reaction is handing it away freely. Response is protecting it fiercely. Imagine the strength of a person who does not react. Someone tries to provoke them, and they remain calm. Someone mocks them, and they smile. Someone betrays them, and they do not beg, do not lash out, do not collapse. They simply move forward, steady and unbroken. That is not weakness. That is unshakable power. Because no one can own them. No one can control them. They live by choice, not by compulsion. But to reach that place, you must see reactions for what they truly are. Chains disguised as freedom. Every time you let anger command you, you tighten the chain. Every time you let fear decide for you, you surrender more of yourself. Every time you lash out instead of breathe, you prove to the world that you can be controlled, and the world will use that against you. The man who cannot control his anger is easy to manipulate. The one who cannot control his greed is easy to deceive. The one who cannot control his pride is easy to provoke. But the one who has trained himself to respond, calmly, wisely, deliberately, is untouchable. You cannot trap him with emotion. You cannot bait him into foolishness. You cannot make him betray himself. This is why reactions control you, because they are not chosen. They are handed to you by others, by circumstance, by emotion. And until you learn to pause, to breathe, to step back, you will remain their servant. The insult comes. You feel the fire rise. That is not the problem. The problem is when you let the fire drive your tongue. The opportunity comes. You feel the rush of excitement. That is not the problem. The problem is when you leap without thought. The betrayal comes. You feel the sting. That is not the problem. The problem is when you let the sting decide your next move. Emotion is natural. Reaction is optional. And so the choice is always in your hands. Will you be ruled by reactions, living as a puppet to the world's provocations? Or will you claim the pause, the silence, the breath, and in doing so, reclaim yourself? Because in the end, the strongest prison is not built of stone. It is built of impulses. And the key to freedom is not to break the world around you, but to master the world within you. The most underrated strength a human being can develop is not speed, not force, not brilliance. It is the pause. That small, quiet, often invisible moment between what happens and what you choose to do. It may last only a breath, a second, an almost imperceptible stillness. But within that silence lies the entire difference between chaos and control, between slavery to emotion and mastery of the self. Most people believe power is in action. They think it is in the loud response, the quick decision, the immediate comeback. But often, the greatest power is not in what you do, but in what you do not do. The ability to stop, to hold, to suspend reaction long enough to choose a response. That is the essence of strength. The pause is freedom. The pause is sovereignty. The pause is the space where your higher self steps forward and takes the reins. Visualize it. Someone insults you in public. The normal pattern unfolds almost instantly. The sting is felt, the pride is pricked, the fire rises, and before you can even think, words explode. A chain reaction of insult and defense takes place, and suddenly the situation spirals into conflict. But imagine if, in that same moment, you paused. Just one breath. Just 1 second of silence. You would see clearly. The insult is nothing but sound, carried on the air. It cannot harm you unless you permit it to. That pause is the gap where wisdom can enter. That pause is where you choose not to be a puppet, but a master. The Stoics spoke endlessly of this inner gap. Epictetus reminded his students, "If you are disturbed, it is not by things, but by your opinion about them." The insult is not the disturbance, your interpretation of it is. The delay, the betrayal, the failure, the rejection, none of these are inherently destructive. What destroys you is your unexamined opinion of them and your unguarded reaction to that opinion. The pause gives you time to recognize this. It gives you the power to say, "This is not the thing that controls me. My interpretation controls me, and I can choose." A pause may feel small, but it is the birthplace of every great decision. Consider history's greatest leaders. Rarely were they the ones who rushed into speech, who exploded in anger, who moved impulsively. The greatest were those who could hold silence in the heat of chaos, who could let others scream while they simply breathed. From that silence, they saw what others missed. From that pause, they acted not from emotion, but from clarity. That is why their actions had weight. That is why their presence carried authority. The pause also reshapes relationships. How many arguments could have been avoided with a moment of silence before speaking? How many friendships preserved, marriages strengthened, families held together? If only someone had stopped to breathe instead of cutting back with words meant to wound. Reactions may satisfy the ego in the moment, but they burn bridges that take years to rebuild. A pause, on the other hand, extinguishes the flame before it grows into fire. It allows you to ask, "Do I need to say this? Do I need to do this? Is it worth it?" More often than not, the answer is no. Think also of decisions. Opportunities, challenges, temptations, they all arrive dressed in urgency. The voice of reaction says, "Decide now, before you lose it. Rush before it's gone." But the pause says, "Wait. Consider. Measure." And in that waiting, you discover what is true and what is illusion. How much money has been lost, how much time wasted, how many lives damaged, because people reacted instead of pausing. The greatest safeguard against regret is not luck. It is the pause. The pause also saves energy. Every reaction costs you something: your time, your peace, your focus. You spend hours fuming over an insult. You waste days repairing damage from words spoken in anger. You drain yourself fighting battles that could have been avoided entirely. But when you pause, you conserve energy. You spend your strength only where it matters. You guard your focus like a treasure, refusing to give it away to every provocation. In doing so, you grow stronger, calmer, more unshakable with each passing day. But make no mistake, the pause is not passive. It is not cowardice. It is not weakness. To hold silence in the heat of emotion requires more strength than to explode in anger. To wait when you want to rush demands more discipline than to leap blindly. To absorb an insult without retaliating is not submission. It is superiority. Because you prove that you cannot be manipulated, that you cannot be dragged down into the mud where others live. You rise above, and in doing so, you win without fighting. The pause is also the space of transformation. In that stillness, you can convert anger into clarity, fear into caution, pride into humility, pain into resilience. Without the pause, these emotions drive you recklessly. With the pause, you harness them like wild horses, steering them where you wish to go. This is the true art of self-mastery, not the denial of emotion, but the command of it. And command is only possible in the gap between stimulus and response. Consider the image of a seed. The world throws dirt on it, storms rage over it, winds shake it. If it reacts instantly, it breaks. But if it remains still, silent, patient, it transforms. It grows roots, it strengthens, it becomes unshakable. The pause is like this. It is the root system of your character. From it grows patience, wisdom, composure, authority. Without it, you remain fragile, tossed around by every gust of circumstance. With it, you stand firm, unmovable. So how do you train this power? Begin with awareness. Notice the moment the fire rises, the tightness in your chest, the rush of blood to your face, the quickening of breath. These are the signs that reaction is coming. In that moment, do not act. Pause. Breathe deeply, slowly. Remind yourself, this event is nothing. Only my opinion gives it weight. I can choose another interpretation. I can choose another response. Do this again and again, until the pause becomes natural, until silence becomes your instinct. At first, it will feel impossible. Your emotions will scream at you to move, to speak, to lash out. But each time you resist, each time you choose the pause, you grow stronger. You begin to realize the world cannot control you unless you allow it to. Insults lose their sting. Fear loses its grip. Pride loses its urgency. You become calm not because life is easy, but because you have mastered the pause. And once you master the pause, everything changes. Conflicts shrink. Opportunities become clearer. Relationships deepen. Decisions improve. Your energy increases. Your dignity shines. People sense it in you. This calm authority, this refusal to be rushed or provoked. They may not know what it is, but they feel it. And in a world addicted to reaction, your pause becomes a beacon of strength. The pause is where your freedom lives. It is where you stop being a slave to circumstance and begin being the master of yourself. It is the small act of rebellion against the forces that seek to control you. It is the difference between living blindly and living deliberately. Remember this, a single breath can save you. A single second of silence can protect your dignity. A single pause can change the entire course of your life. Responding builds strength, not the strength of muscle, but the strength of mind, the strength of character, the strength that cannot be taken away from you by chance, insult, or chaos. Reaction is easy. Anyone can explode. Anyone can lash out. But response, calm, deliberate, intentional, that is rare. That is discipline. That is power. The world is full of people who confuse noise with strength. They believe shouting proves confidence. They think aggression proves dominance. They mistake speed for wisdom. But true power is not loud. True power is not rushed. True power does not come from emotion boiling over. It comes from stillness, from patience, from the ability to choose carefully when the urge is to strike carelessly. Response is not weakness. Response is mastery. Consider the man who is insulted. A reaction comes instantly. His pride flares, his tongue sharpens, and words of venom rise to the surface. That is easy, but imagine he pauses, listens, considers. He may choose to answer calmly. He may choose to smile and walk away. He may choose silence. To the outside world, this may look like restraint, but in reality, it is victory. Because in that moment, he proved that no one else commands him. The insult could not move him. He remains sovereign. Think of a heated argument. Two people shouting over each other, voices raised, emotions tangled. Nothing is heard, nothing is solved, only chaos grows. Now imagine one of them listens. He does not rush to answer. He absorbs the words fully, he understands, and when he speaks, his voice is steady. He cuts through the noise with clarity. The other is silenced not by force, but by composure. This is the strength of response. By choosing not to mirror the storm, he became the anchor. And everyone respects the anchor more than the wave. Response builds respect because it demonstrates control. People instinctively respect those who cannot be provoked. They see in them a quality they lack themselves, stability. The hot-tempered man may be feared for a moment, but he will never be respected for long. Fear fades when his rage exhausts itself. But the calm man, the one who responds instead of reacts, commands lasting respect. Because others know, he is not controlled by the outside world. He controls himself. Response also builds clarity. In reaction, the mind is clouded. Anger blinds you. Fear distorts judgment. Pride forces you to defend things not worth defending. But response clears the fog. It slows time just enough for reason to speak. Instead of saying the first thing that comes to mind, you say the right thing. Instead of rushing into action you'll regret, you take the action you'll stand by tomorrow. The difference between a life filled with regret and a life filled with wisdom often comes down to this simple choice. Did you react or did you respond? Response builds authority as well. Leaders are not those who shout the loudest or move the fastest. They are the ones who remain calm when others panic. Authority comes not from domination, but from composure. When a crisis erupts and everyone else is frantic, the one who pauses, who breathes, who responds with thoughtfulness instead of frenzy, that is the one others will follow. People do not seek chaos, they seek anchors. They seek steadiness, and that steadiness is built in the practice of response. Look at history. The greatest figures were rarely the most emotional. They were often the calmest. They listened before they spoke. They waited before they acted. They measured their words because they knew words carried weight. They responded strategically while others reacted impulsively. And that is why their names are remembered. Their strength was not in the chaos they created, but in the order they brought. Everyday life offers endless examples. A coworker takes credit for your work. A reaction would be to shout, to accuse, to let anger take over. A response would be to observe, to choose the right moment, to defend yourself with facts and composure. Which earns you lasting respect? Which strengthens your reputation? Always the response. Or think of relationships. A partner says something hurtful. A reaction is to fire back, to escalate the pain. A response is to breathe, to understand, to either address it calmly or let it go. Reactions destroy trust. Responses build it. Reactions push people away. Responses bring clarity and closeness. Or think of the street, where tempers flare and small conflicts can escalate into violence. Someone bumps into you. They glare, maybe curse. A reaction would turn the moment into a fight, perhaps into tragedy. A response might be as simple as walking away. The crowd may think the one who walks away is weak, but the truth is the opposite. The one who walks away has won. He proved he cannot be manipulated by provocation. That is real power. This is why responding is training. Every time you pause, every time you choose thought over impulse, you strengthen the muscle of restraint. You harden your mind against provocation. You build a reputation as someone who cannot be shaken easily. People will test you, but when they see you are unmovable, they will begin to respect you, perhaps even fear disappointing you. That is authority, not forced, but earned. The Stoics taught that anger, fear, and pride are chains. They enslave the soul, make you dance to the world's tune. But response breaks those chains. Response declares, I belong to myself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Response is the practice of this truth. It is the act of claiming your mind back from chaos. There is another gift hidden inside response, peace. Reactions fill your life with noise, with conflict, with regret. But response calms the waters. It lets you walk away from what does not matter. It lets you see insults as empty, conflicts as unnecessary, provocations as unworthy. Response turns enemies into teachers, trials into opportunities, pain into lessons. Because in every pause, you see more than just the surface. You see the truth behind appearances. But remember, response is not silence forever. It is not inaction. It is not passivity. To respond is to act, but to act with intention. Sometimes the best response is silence. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is speaking firmly, defending yourself, or standing up for what is right. But the difference is this: you chose it. It was not forced out of you by impulse. You ruled yourself, and so your action carries weight. Responding is strength because it is freedom. Freedom from being controlled by others. Freedom from being a slave to pride. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the storms of emotion that wreck so many lives. Each time you choose to respond instead of react, you train this freedom. And freedom, once practiced, becomes your nature. So practice it in the small moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague irritates you, when a stranger disrespects you. Each of these is training. Each pause is a rep for your soul. Each calm response builds a fortress around your mind. Over time, you will notice the change. Things that once triggered you will feel weightless. Insults that once burned will amuse you. Crises that once terrified you will become challenges you are ready to face. That is what responding does. It builds respect from others. It builds clarity within yourself. It builds authority in how you move through the world. It builds peace, strength, freedom. Reactions scatter your power. Responses gather it, refine it, and project it. So remember this: strength is not the punch you throw, but the one you don't need to throw. Strength is not the shout you release, but the silence you hold. Strength is not in the speed of your reaction, but in the weight of your response. Responding is not just an action. It is the foundation of character. And the more you practice it, the more unshakable you become. Training the mind is not a single act. It is not something you do once and declare finished. It is a daily practice, like sharpening a blade, like strengthening a muscle. The mind, left untrained, is impulsive, restless, reactive. It leaps at every provocation, it drowns in every emotion, it scatters at every distraction. But the mind that is trained daily becomes still, deliberate, unshakable. It learns to respond, not react. It becomes the master of itself. The truth is this: calm is not a gift. Calm is a discipline. Just as the body does not become strong without exercise, the mind does not become calm without training. The difference between the man who erupts at the smallest insult and the man who smiles at the same insult is not fate, not luck, not temperament. It is training. One has practiced surrendering to impulse, the other has practiced ruling over it. And practice always wins. Journaling is one of the simplest, yet most profound practices. At the end of the day, the mind is filled with noise, the words of others, the frustrations of work, the emotions that clung to you like dust. Left unexamined, this noise grows into confusion. But when you write, when you take pen to paper and empty your thoughts, you separate yourself from them. You see them clearly. You turn chaos into order. Journaling is not about recording events. It is about examining them. What triggered me today? Why did I react this way? What could I have done differently? Each answer is a lesson. Each reflection is a brick in the fortress of your mind. Meditation is another form of training. Not the mystical kind, not the dramatic kind, but the simple act of sitting with yourself. Closing your eyes, breathing deeply, observing the storm within without being carried away by it. At first, you will notice how wild the mind is. Thoughts will rush in like a flood, dragging you from one place to another. But with practice, you learn to watch without being swept away. You begin to notice the space between thought and reaction. That space is freedom. That space is where choice lives. And the more you meditate, the wider that space becomes. You become less a prisoner of thought, more the master of it. Self-reflection is the third practice. Every night, the Stoics asked themselves, what did I do well today? Where did I fail? What can I do better tomorrow? This is not self-criticism for punishment's sake. It is self-examination for growth. By reflecting daily, you turn each mistake into a teacher. You turn each victory into motivation. Reflection sharpens awareness. Without it, days blur into one another and lessons are lost. With it, each day becomes progress. Each challenge becomes training. And then there is the practice of delayed response. This is perhaps the most practical exercise of all. When triggered, do not answer instantly. Count to 3. Breathe deeply. Let the emotion wash over you, and then choose. This is training in its rawest form. Each time you delay, you weaken the chain of reaction and strengthen the muscle of response. You prove to yourself that you are not a puppet of anger, not a slave to impulse. You are sovereign. You choose your words, your tone, your action. And the more you delay, the easier it becomes. One day, what once required counting to 3 will require nothing at all. Calm will have become your nature. The mind is like a muscle, and like all muscles, it obeys repetition. If you feed it chaos daily, endless distractions, anger, gossip, fear, it will become chaotic. If you feed it discipline, journaling, meditation, reflection, delayed response, it will become disciplined. Whatever you do repeatedly, you become. This is the law of the mind. And there is no shortcut. Training the mind is not about perfection. You will fail. You will react when you meant to respond. You will lose your temper when you meant to stay calm. But even failure is training. Each failure, when examined, becomes a lesson. Each misstep, when reflected on, becomes progress. The man who trains daily knows that the road to mastery is long, but he also knows that every step makes him stronger. Imagine a warrior. He does not wait until the battle to sharpen his sword. He sharpens it daily, so when the moment comes, he is ready. The same is true of the mind. If you wait until the insult comes, until the crisis arrives, until the anger rises, it will be too late. You must train daily, in quiet, in solitude, so that when the world tests you, your blade is already sharp. Calm will already be your instinct. This is why discipline matters more than intensity. One day of journaling will not change you. 1 hour of meditation will not transform you. But 10 minutes, every day, for years, that will rebuild the foundation of your mind. Consistency is the mother of mastery. The world praises sudden breakthroughs, but true change is slow, deliberate, repeated. The beauty of training the mind is that it compounds. At first, the results are small. A little more patience here, a little less anger there. But over months and years, the difference becomes undeniable. Where once you were triggered, now you are unmoved. Where once you were anxious, now you are steady. Where once you were scattered, now you are clear. And people notice. They will come to you for guidance. They will wonder how you remain calm in storms. They will feel your authority without you needing to demand it. Because calm radiates, composure spreads. A trained mind transforms not only you, but those around you. And so, train daily. Train in writing. Train in stillness. Train in reflection. Train in delay. Do not seek perfection. Seek practice. Do not seek sudden change. Seek repetition. Over time, your mind will harden against provocation, soften toward wisdom, sharpen toward clarity. The untrained mind is like a wild animal, restless, impulsive, dangerous to itself and to others. The trained mind is like a disciplined warrior, calm, controlled, precise. You decide which one you will carry into battle each day. The choice is simple. The discipline is hard. But remember, every great victory is born of small, repeated acts. Every fortress is built stone by stone. Every strong mind is built practice by practice. Responding, not reacting, begins with this training. And this training begins today. He who angers you conquers you. Those words from Epictetus are more than philosophy. They are a mirror. They reveal whether you rule yourself or whether you are ruled by others. Because anger, reaction, impulse, these are chains. If someone can provoke you with a single word, then they own you more than you own yourself. If someone can push your buttons and watch you explode, they are the master and you are the servant. True freedom, true strength, true mastery lies in ruling yourself. This is the essence of Stoicism. It does not promise you control over the world. It does not tell you that life will bend to your will. It reminds you that the only domain you truly command is within. Your thoughts, your choices, your responses. Everything else lies beyond you. And so, the Stoic does not waste himself trying to bend the uncontrollable. He focuses instead on the one kingdom that can never be taken from him, his own mind. To rule yourself means to stop being tossed around by emotions like a ship in storm. Consider anger. How often has it led men to ruin? A single insult answered in rage can destroy years of reputation. A single decision made in fury can shatter families, careers, friendships. The Stoics called anger a form of temporary madness. And madness is the opposite of mastery. He who angers you conquers you, not just for a moment, but often for a lifetime. The same is true of fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of death. When fear rules you, you are already conquered. You hesitate, you retreat, you shrink before life. But when you rule yourself, fear loses its bite. You see it, you feel it, but you do not obey it. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is mastery over fear. The soldier who runs into battle trembling, but still advances, is greater than the man who hides. Desire, too, can conquer you. The desire for approval, the craving for wealth, the hunger for pleasures. When these rule you, you become a slave to them. Your mood rises and falls with external things. You chase constantly, but never arrive. But mastery means this. You still enjoy what life gives, but you are not owned by it. You can walk away from pleasure and remain whole. You can lose wealth and remain calm. You can be rejected and remain steady. The man who rules himself needs little, because his power comes not from what he holds, but from what he refuses to be ruled by. The Stoics understood something vital. Life will test you. People will insult you. Fortune will betray you. Desires will tempt you. Fear will haunt you. You cannot stop this, but you can prepare. You can train your mind daily, so that when the tests come, you stand unshaken. Ruling yourself is not a single act of defiance. It is a lifelong discipline. Consider Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruler of millions, yet still reminding himself every morning. You will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful people today. Why did he write this? Because he knew, if he allowed anger to dictate his reign, he would destroy not only himself, but the empire. His enemies could defeat him with swords, but worse, they could defeat him with provocations if he was not careful. And so, he trained his mind to stay calm, to respond, not react, to rule himself before ruling others. Seneca, too, warned against becoming a servant of emotions. He said that the greatest empire is the empire of the self. You may conquer nations, but if you cannot conquer your temper, your envy, your greed, then you are no emperor at all. You are just a decorated slave. History is full of such men, kings, generals, leaders who had power over armies, but not over themselves. They fell not to enemies, but to their own uncontrolled impulses. What does it mean, then, to rule yourself? It means you live with discipline. You decide before the storm how you will act when it comes. You rehearse insults in your mind so they lose their sting. You remind yourself daily that life is fragile, so loss does not break you. You practice simplicity, so riches cannot corrupt you. You train your patience, so anger cannot hijack you. Rule is not passive. It is active, deliberate, daily. This does not mean suppression. Stoicism is not about burying emotions, pretending they do not exist. It is about understanding them, seeing them clearly, and choosing not to be ruled by them. The Stoic feels anger, but does not lash out. He feels fear, but does not retreat. He feels desire, but does not kneel before it. Mastery is not numbness. Mastery is choice. Think of a rider and a horse. The untrained mind is the rider dragged wherever the horse runs, into cliffs, into swamps, into chaos. The trained mind is the rider who guides the horse, not by killing its spirit, but by channeling its energy. Emotions have power. Anger can fuel justice. Desire can fuel ambition. Fear can fuel caution. But only when ruled. Unruled, they destroy. And so, the Stoic way is not about controlling the world, but about controlling yourself within the world. This is why Epictetus, born a slave, was freer than many kings. His body could be chained, but his mind was his own. His master could beat him, insult him, threaten him, but unless Epictetus surrendered his mind, he remained unconquered. This is the highest power a human can reach, to be untouchable in spirit, even when everything external is taken. To rule yourself is to refuse the cheap victory others seek over you. The insult that baits your rage, the slight that tempts your pride, the delay that tests your patience. If you take the bait, you are defeated. If you remain calm, you remain sovereign. And that sovereignty, that inner throne, is one no one can steal from you. But make no mistake, ruling yourself is not easy. It demands constant vigilance. It demands training. Just as the body weakens without exercise, the mind weakens without discipline. If you allow yourself to indulge every impulse, to obey every desire, to snap at every provocation, you erode your strength. Slowly, you become owned by everything around you. Slowly, the world dictates your peace. So train. Train in small things. Train when you are delayed in traffic, when you are insulted online, when you are tempted by distraction. Each time you resist reaction, each time you hold your ground, each time you respond with clarity instead of chaos, you add another stone to the fortress of your mind. And in time, that fortress will stand unshaken against far greater storms. The Stoics did not say this path would be easy. They said it was necessary. Because what is the alternative? To live as a puppet? To hand the keys of your peace to every stranger? To be conquered daily by anger, fear, and desire? That is not life. That is slavery. Rule yourself. Guard your mind like a kingdom. Protect your peace like a fortress. Train daily, deliberately, patiently. And when others try to conquer you with anger, you will smile, for you know the truth. The greatest victory is mastery over self. Your reactions are your chains. Your responses are your freedom. That is the truth. Every day, life tests you. People insult you. Circumstances frustrate you. Events don't unfold as you wish. And in those moments, you stand at a crossroads. One path is reaction. The other is response. Reaction is quick, impulsive, unthinking. Response is deliberate, chosen, conscious. Reaction enslaves you. Response liberates you. Look closely at your life. How many mistakes were born from a reaction? How many words did you spit out in anger that you wished you could take back? How many decisions did you make in fear, only to regret them later? How many opportunities slipped through your fingers because you were impatient? Reactions are chains. They bind you to emotions, to impulses, to the control of others. When you react, you are no longer free. You are a puppet pulled by strings you cannot even see. But response is different. Response is power. Response is mastery. Response is the pause between what happens to you and what you choose to do. That pause is small, but within it lies your freedom. It is there that you step out of slavery to impulse and into the kingdom of choice. Responding means you rule yourself. It means you decide the meaning of events. It means no one and nothing can control you unless you allow it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that you cannot control what happens, but but you can always control how you interpret it and how you act. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the heart of response. When the world insults you, when fate betrays you, when fortune abandons you, you cannot decide those things. But you can decide whether they make you bitter or wiser, whether they chain you in anger or free you through patience, whether you let them break you or whether you rise stronger. Response requires strength. It is not weakness. The weak lash out. The weak let their emotions govern them. The weak are predictable. They can be provoked, manipulated, controlled. But the strong remain calm. They see clearly. They wait. They act with precision. To respond instead of react is to live with discipline. It is to choose dignity over chaos, clarity over confusion, wisdom over impulse. Imagine a man insulted in the marketplace. One version of him reacts. He shouts back, fights, makes a scene, and lowers himself to the level of the one who provoked him. Another version pauses. He smiles. He walks away. He keeps his dignity intact. Which man is free? Which man rules himself? The answer is obvious. But this is not only about insults. This is about every corner of life. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Do you rage, honk, curse? Or do you breathe and move on? A deal falls through. Money is lost. Do you panic and make rash moves? Or do you stay calm, adjust, and rebuild with patience? A loved one hurts you with words. Do you lash back, deepening the wound? Or do you breathe, listen, and choose the higher ground? Each time, the choice is there. React and be chained. Respond and be free. Your reactions are your chains. Think of this. Chains are not always visible. They may be habits. They may be patterns. They may be the automatic ways you've always behaved. Chains feel normal because you've worn them for so long. But they still enslave. They keep you stuck. They keep you weak. Your responses are your freedom. They break the chain. They turn your habits into discipline, your patterns into choice, your impulses into strength. Freedom is not the absence of challenge. Freedom is the ability to face challenge without losing yourself. So how do you train for this? You train as the Stoics trained, daily. You journal to see your thoughts clearly. You meditate to calm your mind. You rehearse in your head the insults, the losses, the frustrations you will face, so they do not catch you off guard. You practice the pause, the deep breath, the silence, the space before action. These are not small acts. They are the weapons of a free man. They are the armor of the one who rules himself. This is why Epictetus warned, "He who angers you conquers you." If anger can make you move against your better judgment, you are conquered. If fear can paralyze you, you are conquered. If desire can make you betray your values, you are conquered. But if you can stand firm, breathe, choose, then no one conquers you. Not the world, not fate, not fortune. You become sovereign. And what is sovereignty? It is mastery over self. It is the highest form of power a human can achieve. Because kingdoms can be lost, wealth can be stolen, reputations can be destroyed. But the man who rules himself cannot be taken. He carries his power wherever he goes. Even in chains, he is free. Even in loss, he is rich. Even in insult, he is untouchable. Respond, don't react. This is not just a phrase. It is a way of life. It is the difference between chaos and control, slavery and freedom, weakness and strength. If you want peace, respond. If you want wisdom, respond. If you want to lead your life, respond. Reaction is the path of the many. Response is the path of the few. And it is the few who live with power, clarity, and dignity. So remember this final truth. The world will always test you. It will always try to provoke you, distract you, chain you. But the test is not outside. The test is inside. Will you give away your power in reaction? Or will you keep it in response? Your life will be shaped by this decision. Every day, every moment. Your reactions are your chains. Your responses are your freedom. So train your mind. Slow down. Choose your response. And above all, rule yourself. Because the man who responds, not reacts, is the man who leads his life.